Okay, so let's go ahead and continue with our blockout. So yeah, we pretty much got the base. So what I want to do now is I want to start by defining like our main piece, which is going to be our door over here. So that one is a little bit tricky because these doors are always like quite large, much larger than a person. So of course, there is a little bit of flexibility in it. Let me say it like that. So let's have a look. So what I want to do is I first of all want to create the door piece over here, and then we'll create everything on top. So I think that's a good point to start with. Now, if I go ahead and go up here, I can start by just defining like that wooden pillar that we have over here and the scale for that. Actually, what I want to do is I want to like duplicate my guy over here. So if I sometimes move a little bit slow, it's because I'm using a different mouse so that you guys cannot hear the clicking. But this mouse, it's not my favorite mouse. Anyway, so let's go ahead and have a look. So we have our person over here. And I would say like the door is probably like 2.5 times the size of a person. That's what I'm guessing. So what I can do is I can just go ahead and start with something like this. Box. And I feel like it probably wouldn't be wider than the stair over here. So let's do like, what was it, 25? A bit wider. Let's do 30. And then I guess it wouldn't be a square because as you can see, like it needs quite a bit of stuff in between. And of course I need to make it a bit more logical. This one is not 100% logical because it would be too fragile to really be as like a standalone. So you do want to like double check over here. You can see like they are quite a bit thicker, all of these wood beams. So it's up to me to decide like, do I want to make it maybe like a little bit thicker? And maybe I want to. Maybe I'm gonna go, let's do like, what if we try 40? Yeah, let's do 40. And let's make the depth like 50 maybe. Yeah, that feels pretty good. And now comes the height. So for the height, let's start with 250 maybe. Oh wait, not 250. I need 450 over here. And what I can do is I can start by just like placing it and pressing accept. And as you can see, these beams, they are pretty much aligned with the stair. So these ones are like really important that we get this stuff right. And then the rest comes later. I'm going to go ahead and, because I made it quite thick, I'm going to start it at the end of the stair. Over here. And now, one thing I immediately noticed that if I would do this, this would be way too wide. So this is something that I'm going to first of all create half of the door. And whatever is left, that I will just copy that over. It's a pretty common technique that I often use when I'm not sure about scaling. So we got this one. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create those little windows that you can see next to it. So if we just go ahead and create something like this, I'm going to go for a width of, how thick would those be? Oh, sorry, not this one. Width of maybe like 40 and then depth of like 10 maybe. No, 40 doesn't feel right. I'm pretty much just looking to see that it feels right. That's all I need right now. So let's do 60. Yeah, 60 centimeters is pretty wide, but I think they are pretty wide windows. Maybe, oh, cancel, take 55. Yeah, let's do 55 to get started. So let's go ahead and place this one around over here. And I'm going to just like place it a little bit into place, roughly in the center, most likely. And that should be fine. So this one is the same length, which is good. Now what I can do is I can go ahead and I can just count like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Always nice when you can count certain stuff. I can go to my poly edit, insert edge loop, and then what I can do is from proportional offset, I can set it to even and set the numbers to 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's 9. So need to go 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. And then we can go ahead and just place them. So this will instantly give us like some additional amounts. And then I can just go ahead and press done. Now, unfortunately, this is where the editing tools are not as nice as they are inside of like 3ds Max or Blender or something like that. And that's what with the inset we can only inset one face at a time, and you can see that over here, like it breaks quite quickly. Like I'm not sure, I'm not like the biggest fan of it. However, what I could do is I could just like try insert loops and then set this to proportional offset, because it doesn't have to be very precise. I can just go ahead and place these, and basically what I'm just gonna do is I'm just gonna pretty much like guess roughly how much it needs to be. And of course when we create our final, we will do this much more even and nice and stuff like that. And yeah, you can also see over here that sometimes the selections are also pretty bad, so that's maybe why it's still in the beta. But we have this one. Now if I have a look over here, what we can do is we can now go ahead and I like to just, it's like a really messy way of doing it, but it's a quick way of doing it, and that's just deleting the back faces. And then simply selecting the front faces, go really close up, and then just extrude this in until you hit the back, like that, and then just delete it again. And then that's enough for a blockout. Like, and now that we have this one, so we have this, and now we basically just need to make sure that it kind of like feels at the same scaling and everything as that. What I would say is the only thing that I want to do is maybe want to like scale it in a little bit more. Like this. A little bit thinner. There we go. And the height, it's something that we kind of like need to figure out once we actually have like our top pieces. That's when we really know if we need to height and how big everything needs to be and stuff like that. So we got that one done. Now it looks like there's like one additional just like poly next to it, and then we have our door. So what I can do is I can probably just go ahead and duplicate this one. And I'm just going to press dupe so that we can do a free edit on it. And I'm gonna make this, let's make this like quite thin. Move it over here. And I just want to move this in. So this one, as I said before, like we are going to have a think about supports, but I think having like these wood areas over here quite thin is fine, because we will have the supports up here. I'm going to create like a double support. It's really hard to see on here, but I have a good idea for it. So yeah, that should be fine. Like here they are. Oh, that one doesn't even have a door. Yeah, yeah. So see, so sometimes they do have like an in-between piece of wood. So let's go ahead and just use this one. And then the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to place or create my door, which I'm going to decide on the thickness. So I want it probably to be quite a thick door, something like this. Let's make this one a bit bigger. And for this door, it comes all the way up to the top. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and once again duplicate it. Go to my edit poly. And in this case, it's mostly just like guessing what is like a nice size, because these doors, they do not follow any type of standard metric or something like that, but of course we can have some logic with it. So like 1, 2, like if three people at the same time can walk through it, that is pretty good. If we do something like that, maybe make it like a little bit thinner, probably something like this. Okay, cool. So we got this one over here. Now for the door, I'm just gonna give it like some general shapes, just to make it a little bit more clear that it is a door. So let's make 2 lines here, and I'm just following my concept art. 2 lines at the bottom. Maybe make this one over here a bit bigger, because you often see that with doors. And then I'm going to go ahead and let's go for an even offset of 2. Place those 2 and press done. Select them and then use this little top button over here to scale them out. something like this should do the trick. And now we can insert again, and I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm going to, yeah, actually I can do an even proportion. One here, and one here. Done. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just gonna set this to proportional offset again. And I'm going to give this some depth or thickness. There we go. Should do the trick. So we got these pieces and we don't have to like have them go all the way to the other side. We just want to extrude them in a little bit. There you go, see? Just to indicate like, hey, this is like a door and stuff like that. So that should be fine. When I see this, now that there are shapes in it, that's also why it's good to have some more shapes in it. I do feel like I want it to be a little bit bigger. And I don't know, I feel like, could it benefit from being like a little bit higher? Let's have a look. No, actually, no, this is probably fine. Like by the time that we have this big bulky thing on top, it will have already reached the top. So this might actually already be like a good size, but of course, it's just a matter of trying things out. What I'm going to do with these is I'm going to just quickly select them. And I'm going to add a let's do gray material over here. I know that at this point, if you want, you can already just duplicate this for now. And later on this will just become like a plane or something because it's you cannot really see behind it. Actually, I'm just going to leave that. And what I'm going to do is we have over here our door. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to duplicate it. Now with my doors, I want to already, because I think I want to later on open one, just because it will look a little bit more nicer and inviting. I'm just going to go to my pivot point. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to set this to my bottom over here and then move it to the side. And then press accept. And the reason I do this is so that now I can rotate it open and closed. Now for this one, I need to duplicate it. Once again, go to pivot point, bottom, but this time put it over to the other side. And I guess you know why. Just to rotate it over to the other side. Okay. Now these pieces over here, we can just go ahead and we can duplicate it. Of course, you could select everything and mirror it, but I'm just gonna keep the same pieces in case I want to make a change. I only have to make a change to one side of the of these areas. So we have this one also over here. Something like that. Okay. So let's have one more look in my camera. And let's see if I would like, for example, later on do like this. Oh yeah, I definitely need to like work on my camera angles. But for now, I think this is like a pretty good spot to be in. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to start by like extending things out a little bit and adding like additional beams to this. So at this point, what I want to do is I want to grab our main pillar. I'm just going to extrude this out. Don't know why I did a weird pivoting over there. And this is just that I can start placing some additional things in between here. And those additional things are going to be, if we just duplicate one of these, rotate it 90 degrees, and let's also press dupe on it just to make it unique. I can go ahead and I can move it up here. Yeah, something like this. So the cool thing is with like often Japanese architecture, when it is really old, they didn't use nails and stuff like that. Instead, they use this kind of stuff where they basically like perfectly cut out the shapes inside of the wood and then they just fit the wood in there. It's a really cool technique. Also over here, it's a really cool technique that they use in like all the Japanese buildings. And I also want to kind of like implement that same technique. There was like a classic one where you can often see that technique, but I'm not sure if I can find it. Oh yeah, it's like over here, like where they would just like cut out the shape and then they would literally just like place the entire wood beam in between here. So yeah, we are pretty much going to try and kind of like mimic that. I think it will look quite interesting. And for that, it just means that sometimes our wooden beams need to be like a little bit less long. And what I want to do is I probably want to like, move this out over here. This seam, I'm just gonna place it in the center. I don't really need it, but it's more of a pain to remove it than to just leave it. Here, so we are just going to like stick it out over here. I think that should be fine. And now what I can see is that, so we have like one beam, and then we have a beam in front of it, but that's one we will create later. And then we still have like these grates, and then we have another large, wider beam. So what I can do is I can go ahead and already duplicate this. So the larger, wider beam, I guess it makes sense if it is like the same thickness, but we are going to make it like a little bit wider like this. And this is the one that's like holding most of the weight, it looks like. And this one is also actually extending quite a bit. I can see over here there's like some additional detail which we can incorporate into it. So first of all, let's move this up. Yeah, actually I think this is like a pretty good one. Now next, that means that over here, this one, we need to, let's see, once again, like at this point I'm just gonna move it up, and then we will just make up when we create our final how that is created. So what I will do is I will probably like push it up a little bit more like this and leave it. Now for this one, on the end, you can see that we have like a little detail over here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to reuse this detail that we have over here, because this one we can then use here, here, and here, which means that we save a lot of time. So if I just go ahead and create that one, it's pretty much, let's see, going up here. Let's see, that's extruding it a bit. And then it looks like, just for the blockout, of course, like we will make this much better with like splines and stuff like that later on. But for now, let's just push this out. Is it far enough or too far? Or I guess maybe like a little bit too far, so maybe like push it back in a little bit over here. And now what we can do just to mimic that effect, first of all, let's move this one down a little bit, is to just select these edges here, which are a bit annoying to select. And then you can just go ahead and do a bevel. And again, I don't know why they don't just like add an option to add more lines in between the bevel. But luckily for like a blockout, this is good enough. Now at this point, what you can do is you can go to your pivot and just set it to the center. Oh, see, that's what I mean. Here I forgot to duplicate it, and now we have this issue over here. Luckily, it's not a big problem because I can quickly duplicate this one. And then for this one, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to quickly turn off these two selection filters, because here I can select between vertices, edges and faces. So I can turn off everything but faces, delete it, turn it back on, push out my face again a little bit, and then just select these 4 edges over here, and we can just go ahead and do a bridge. Although I can remember it doesn't like it when I do it with 4 at the same time. Where are you? Bridge? Yeah, see? Again, like it doesn't like that. It wants you to bridge it one by one. So that's a little bit unfortunate. But still, often when you are just creating a blockout, it's such a nice tool to have, where we can just like quickly create these blockouts. Now, where were we? Pivot, center your pivot, accept, and then also inside of Unreal we have the mirror tools. You can find them going down over here to try model and then mirror. And next what I can do is I can go like left, right, here we go, right. And then I can just push it out. And I guess luckily for us we can kind of like use this grid. Oh no, maybe not luckily for us. I was going to say we can use this grid and kind of like align it with the door. But let's just like eyeball it a little bit. Something like this, and press accept. See? And now we instantly mirrored it, which is also nice. Okay, cool. For those things in between here, all I'm going to do is this one. I quite like that detail that we have in here. Now we have some messy geometry in here. Unfortunately, as far as I can remember, you cannot actually do like a double click and like, yeah, here, you cannot double click to actually select those few edges. So I guess because I'm not in such a massive rush, I can just select them by hand and use these edges for some additional detail. So if I move this one probably like halfway here, and then do the same with this one, just go ahead and select it. And this one can be moved halfway here. And pretty much the way that it looks like, it's like just like a nice additional detail that we have. So I'm just gonna go ahead and add an insert loop. Add one here. And another one here. Just press accept. And then quickly just grab like these two pieces. And then push them in a little bit. And that's just for me to remind myself that there is going to be like a detail there. Now next we can just reuse these ones over here. But we want to make them a little bit smaller because they look a little bit smaller. Although they mostly look like thinner. Not so much smaller, but thinner. We got this one. Now, I do not just want to scale it out, because then they become too long. I actually want to push them in a little bit so that they become more squarish. Let's move them up a little bit. And also what we can do is we can move them in a bit. But what I can do is I can now just go ahead and press duplicate. And once again, I can just use my mirror. And if I just go ahead and use the mirror on the right side, here, see, I can just quite easily extend this. And if I can now just try and get it exactly on like a joint over here, and then scale it back in a bit. And I'm just gonna quickly select this and move it in. There we go. Easy. So we got this one. And I'm going to, for now, just duplicate it like this. Of course, I will make it look nicer later on. Although you can even make it look nicer now by just selecting these. And scaling them out like a little bit over here. See? Now they instantly just like fit a bit better. There we go. Okay, so we got that one done. What I'm going to do now is... yeah, I think I'm first going to create like the top. Because once I created the top, I kind of like know if I need to do any type of weird scaling. Because over here you can already see that we have very little space. But of course I can change my camera a little bit. So it kind of like depends on how we want the scaling to be. So for the top, let's go ahead and go up here. And I'm going to make it, of course, like a very, very simplified version. But this version will probably, because it's going to be like a centerpiece, it will be quite detailed when we actually start creating it. So we will end up like with like these really nice top details over here with all the tiles and all that stuff, thanks to the power of nanite. However, for now, let's go ahead and do something like this. Let's create a new, let's go modeling, let's create a new box. I'm just gonna make it like 20 by 20 by 20 because I don't know how big I want to have this become over here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and let's do poly edit. And first of all, let's decide on like our length. So this one just extends out over it. So if we go probably somewhere like along here. And then somewhere along, say like here, okay. Now, next in terms of like the thickness, this thickness is actually fine because I'm starting by creating this little top piece over here. And then I will make it like thicker and thicker. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to push this out to make it like a little bit wider. And now at this point, honestly, you cannot really properly decide the height. Like what I will do to kind of like guess is I'm just going to now go to my poly edit. Like I feel like that this is like a good, actually no, I don't feel like this is a good width. Let's move it up a little bit. Something like this. And then it is more just a matter of extruding it a bit, like this. And then just scaling it out. Extruding it a bit. And we basically do this until we get to the point where it feels like what we have in our concept. So over here, so it just depends on like how wide we want to go. And I feel like we want to probably, let's do one small one more. Is that correct? We can also have a look at our camera. Okay, we cannot have a look at the camera. It doesn't matter. I don't know. Like that is. I feel like it's a little bit too bendy. Let's undo that for a moment. So we got this one. Let's see. Let's extrude this. Let's make it bend like a little bit softer. Because I'm going to later on like duplicate this one a bunch of times most likely. I kind of want to make sure that I have it right. Although I'm going to show you another technique where we basically use megascans for blockouts. But that will come in a bit. Okay, so we got this. And now I need to do another extrude. Because there is like this flat part. And that extrude basically always looks like it's like a little bit sideways. So we got something like this as like a very, very simple base. So we can go ahead and press accept. Now at this point what I'm going to do is let's go actually back to my edit poly, and I'm going to start by just doing like a edge loop over here. This way I'm just going to like extrude this out. Move it over here. Maybe add like one additional edge loop in between, which you can then go ahead and use to move down. And once again over here, extrude this out, rotate it a bit, insert an additional edge loop. And let's go ahead and move this down. There we go, just it's good enough. It doesn't look very good, but good enough for my purposes. Now, at this point, if I do an edge loop here, does that seem to work? Yeah, I think I can make that work. So if I'm just going to create an edge loop here, another one around here, and press accept. Sorry, I need to press done. I keep forgetting that they changed that. And now I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to move all of these to make them a little bit more even. It's quite annoying at this point because really like the modeling tools, as soon as you get like a little bit more geometry, they kind of like start to break. But basically what I'm on about is that I want to go in and then, come on. I said I want to go in and I want to like remove these center areas over here. Most of them. I just want to remove like 3 of them. And once we've done that, it should look quite nice so that we can like place this on top of our door. I don't know why I need so much concentration for something like this that I can barely speak, but let's say, let's do this one. Last one. But that should be enough. Like if I now go ahead and I have this, so I want to remove this one, this one, this one. Tick, tick, tick. Let's press delete. And the next thing that I can do is I can just kind of like go on this position. And I can select them and I can press bridge over here. It's a bit time consuming, but I can just go ahead and keep adding these. Here we go, let's press accept. Yeah, for now that works quite well. So what I can do is then pretty much for now, let's just place it in here, like this. Place it a bit in the center. And then it's more for us to decide, like, okay, how high do I want this to be? So from like a bottom side, let's just go ahead and go over here. And I'm just going to go into my camera actor and unlock my transforms. And let's see, let's move this carefully, like a little bit down. Okay, like that. And next what I can do is I can just go ahead and use the blue. And let's see, probably up until like this point, I want to place it. And now that I've done that, I can go ahead and I can... Oh, I'm sorry. For some reason my keyboard registration was in the wrong position. I hope that does not matter too much for you guys, but since I'm not really doing any shortcuts. Okay, so we got like this one. There will be like a framework inside of here, but we don't really need it for now. So let's have a look. Just now it comes to the tricky part, because now we are going to figure out if like the widths and everything are fine. And if I do this, like I do get that long feeling, which you also get here. Like you get the feeling like this one is quite long. I do get that too. I have a feeling like my roof over here, if I just go set the pivot point to like the bottom and press accept, I feel like I can like scale that down just like a little bit. Yeah, so of course it will become quite a bit thicker. So it's really difficult for me to do this while also showing you the concept art. So I'm just kind of like having a think over here. Like the doors, they feel right. I would say that everything feels a little bit high. Oh, God. Sorry, didn't mean to. Oh, I messed it up. Didn't mean to do that. Let's start with something like this. We will change it later on anyway. So, if I would go in, and that's the annoying thing with Unreal, that you can... Oh. You can do Ctrl Alt and click to like try to select something, but what it then does is it often selects like a bunch of stuff that you do not want to select. So I just need to make sure that that didn't select like here. See, like it selected the sky and stuff like that. But there we go. Okay, so now we have everything selected. So that's Ctrl Alt, and basically all I want to do is I just want to see if I move it down, if that looks more logical. It looks more logical if I move it down like a tiny bit. But of course I don't just want to like move this all down a tiny bit. So, I don't know, can it be as easy as just like... No, it cannot be that easy. So these ones, let's scale them down a tiny bit. Let's use this one as like our base. Yeah, okay, that's good. So, now that we have this one, all we have to do is we have to quickly grab these, and these ones we can also scale down a tiny bit as long as the pivot point's at the base. And then this kind of stuff, it's more like not scaling it, but moving it all down. And then the last one, it's more about like just having a think. Gonna use like a gray material also on it. Yes, I think we got it. I think that's a pretty good one to get started with. Okay, cool. So I will leave this chapter off by just creating these last few extra bits. And then in the next chapter what we can do is we can create all of the buildings on the site. And it's okay to, of course, keep changing the scale even after we already placed it. When we place those additional buildings, then we just keep getting like a bigger sense of scale. Anyway, for now, what I'm going to do is I have over here this beam. I'm going to make the depth maybe like 25. Yeah, that looks actually quite nice. Oh wait, that's 35. Let's do 30. Over here. And let's just go ahead and just place it nicely in the center. So this is just going to be those additional wood pillars that we have. And based on that, I can also see that I need to push everything back a little bit. Because over here you can see that now we just do not have enough space. But we can already make it and then just select everything. Let's do something like this. Add the poly, move it up. And this one would come roughly around halfway. See? Yeah, pretty much around halfway of the door. So let's go for something like this. I do feel like it's a little bit too beefy, so let's just go ahead and just push it back in a little bit more. Like, I don't want it to be too over the top. And let's make it gray. Duplicate. Rotate. And then we can have one that's over here. So this one we can just scale in. Like this. And yeah, let's push it out quite a bit over here. And another one that is at the top. No, I do not like this. This one needs to be thinner. And we need to push this closer. These two will need to be pushed back in. Let's see, does that feel better? And I want this one to be like a little bit higher. And then this one also push it like a little bit higher. Also a cool trick, which I'm not doing yet right now because it's annoying for you guys. But you can go to Window, Viewports and select Viewport 2. And this way you can create an additional viewport where if you set the camera, you can have this on like your second screen. And that allows you to basically easily like move things around. Now the reason I'm not doing it is because it slows down your computer because it needs to render everything twice. And of course for me, it means that I would do a lot of stuff that you guys cannot see. And that would not be very nice. These ones, however, although I'm going to make them a little bit thicker. I think for the rest, oh no, that's too thick. So I'm really picky. And I feel like already at the Blockout, like I want to often already be a little bit picky. Just so that we can quickly replicate everything. We can now go ahead and duplicate this over to this side. Have one last look. Yeah, see, that feels right. Okay, awesome. Now we have these ones over here. Basically, it's almost like this. So it's, let's see, it's like one of them which goes here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it thinner. Yeah. And I want to make it also thinner like this. I'm going to go to my edit poly. I'm going to select the ends over here. And I'm actually going to scale these out to make everything a little bit longer. Do I want to do that? Yes, but then I want to kind of like push this one back in. Same over here. So let's make it like a little bit longer. And then what we can do is we can go ahead and select the end. Push it back in. These bits over here, I'm just gonna place straight. And when doing this, I realized that I am not editing a duplicate. So I'm just gonna cancel it. And I'm going to actually duplicate this. There we go. And let me just pause the video and redo that stuff. Here we go. Okay, cool. Now I'm going to probably, let's see, push this one back in because I don't want to have this stuff extending too far out beyond that back pillar over here that you see. Yeah, something like that should work. Okay. I want to make sure that it aligns with like our center pillar. And then basically what I want to do is I want to push it in front of it a little bit, like this. And next stop is just duplicating it. And then for this piece, I'm just going to once again press duplicate. Go to my edit poly. Select only my faces and just go ahead and delete everything but the top or the end. And then of course go to pivot and let's just do like a pivot on the, I'm just going to set it in the center over here. Okay, so we can go ahead and we can grab this one. And if I have a look, this one needs to come here. And this one, we actually want to make it a little bit thinner again. And push it up. And this one is more like in the center over here. And we want to turn on vertex select again. We want to push this out a little bit. And we can now go ahead and just duplicate this over to the other side. And at that point, it's just a matter of having a look. Yeah, I think that is like pretty decent. So let's have one final look before we finish off this chapter. So the height and everything we still need to figure out based upon, of course, what we have over here with these additional pieces. But in general, it is looking pretty good. The only thing I don't like is that this one might want to go like a little bit lower, like that. Let's see, these beams over here, they are pretty good. However, they do feel like a little bit small, but that might just be like when I actually just move my camera a little bit closer and stuff like that, that might resolve itself. Or what I am going to do is I'm probably going to change my focal range to something like, it's now 35, maybe to like something like 50. Yeah, here, see, I feel like now 50 starts to work better in our favor. So we got that one, we got our thick beam over here, we got those pieces, we got just like a little ending, we got our top piece. Yeah, I would say that for now, this is fine. In the next chapter, what we will do is we will just like add that extra tiny detail up here, and then we will start working on like all of the side pieces. So let's go ahead and continue with this in our next chapter.